Today there is again a video in which we want to take a closer look at the effects on the movement patterns in Rollkur, LDR, Hyperflexion trained horses. This is the recording of a very highly rated test at the highest level. Level in the sense of the FEI regiment. Although it is surprising that these movement patterns that do not correspond to the rules are rated so highly. Already when riding away you can see that the horse is pulling the left front leg a little more than the right one. Actually, the front legs should only come out of the shoulder because the horse is carrying underneath from behind and the horse is relatively upright. In the curve you can see that the horse is not bent actively with the inner hip. When extending, the hindquarters remain extremely far back while in front. The legs are thrown away, and the muscles behind the saddle up to the iliosacroiliac joint show that there is little movement here. So the back is not really there. Here you can see that the hand is extremely on the horse. He is actively held behind the vertical and the muscles of the neck top and side line does not look like it does with a horse that seeks support from the back to the front over the top line. With the appuiement, half pass, you can see that they are extremely attracted in front of the two, but the horse is not ridden up from behind to front. Here, too, when arriving on the straight, the hindquarters are not underneath. This is not a collected trot in the sense of the FEI regulations. Also again in the curve or corner more precisely, the horse is not bent, does not step diagonally under with its inner hind leg and hip. Now the passage you can see that the movement is not completely round, that the back is firm, that the tail does not really swing along. Tightening is more important for the horse than making a round movement and pushing off, which is what really matters when I leave from the passage back. A back stay in the hindquarters, no lowering of the haunches, a tossing away in front of the front legs, which go back themselves before they are put down. When I was still judging and being trained for the judge's office, we always learned that if the front leg is put back, and that this trot is not pointing where it is going, here we again see the passage, not round, ticked off, with a stiff back and not actively looking for rein contact over the top line. So we miss the real flow movement of the back, and the bouncing and pushing off the ground. Again a halt pass where the horse remains behind the vertical 1. Although the horse is gripped extremely to the side, but the horse does not rise in a relative elevation forwards, because the hindquarters simply stay behind, and do not come underneath, but more speed is made, and larger movements are made with the front leg, but not according to the FEI regulations. Note also the tail that doesn't really swing. Again taking a stiff turn, the corner not round, not with the inside hind leg and the inside hip underneath. We stay in the passage. Please note that this is not a round movement. Even if the leg has to be held in the air, pushing off should have more priority than holding the leg up. And also note that there is no round movement on the front legs either. The horse is also ticked off in the back, as no real connection from front to back is possible. When riding away to extend again, the same thing. The hindquarters do not step under. The limbs do not sink. The horse flings away in front and is actually downhill all the time. Even if you take a closer look at the neck muscles, the horse is kept extremely tight. There is actually the wrong kink through the whole test, and the top line is not as muscled as one would expect in a horse that goes in these tests. There is also extreme spitting, i.e. dripping off foam, which also shows that the horse does not have the opportunity to swallow well. Here you can see again that the horse is braked on the forehand while walking. There is not given the opportunity to walk from the back to the front, to come out of the shoulder over the back, and above all, to make the nod movement forwards. The horse always stays behind a quasi-drawn line that you can imagine with the nose back, and not stretching forward. Accordingly, the horse cannot come fully out of the shoulder, and the hindquarters remain behind, and you can also see that in the area behind the saddle that it is here is completely stiff and does not really resonate, which it should actually do in the walk but cannot, because it is made stiff by holding it too short in the neck, and through the appropriate training in the back. They need that because they want an extreme forehand action that looks very spectacular, and of course, the horse functions accordingly. Continue the walk and the transition to the piaffe. The horse does not really lower itself from behind, and the croup comes up. The horse steps back and cannot step under the massa, because it cannot collect because it is blocked. The horse is actually completely on the forehand in the passage when riding away. That is not what one imagines as passage piaffe in this way. But of course less tact errors are made, because passage piaffes actually represent almost the same movement, and the horse doesn't really have to balance itself incredibly well under the center of gravity. Again, the agitated front leg and the horse really remains completely behind at the back. Nothing drops in the hip. The hindquarters do not get underneath the horse, even springs up from behind instead of stepping under the center of gravity, and thereby straightening up in front. There is also a lot on the forehand that shouldn't actually go on the forehand. If one were to take measurements here of how the horse comes up and pushes itself off and bounces or not, then that would not be very flattering. Finally, I apologize for the bad English translation. But I was asked to present some of these videos in English and I wanted to do this for my English-speaking friends. I hope that they can understand what I want to tell here.